when I was a monk, This is what I looked like. I had a shaved head and I wore robes, and I was a monk for about 5 years or so. And I traveled in the world, and I lived in India 6 months of the year, and I would stay in different monasteries in America, other 6 months, and I go back and forth. And the primary thing you learn as a monk is sense control and sensitivity, is learning how to control the mind. The mind isn't often always seen as the senses. Usually with the senses, we think of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. But sometimes the mind, the mental capacity, is also considered one of the senses. And so in that form, I mean sense control and control of the mind specifically, so that you do what you want to do and not what the mind thinks you should do. Raise your hand if you're willing to, if you want to control the mind and not have the mind control you. Perfect. You're in the right place. When it comes to practicing mind control, if you will, which sounds a little different than maybe what supervillain movies that you've heard, but mind control in terms of teaching the mind how to do what you want it to do, we have to find very practical ways to do it, and we have to do it consistently. And being a monk provided me an opportunity to be able to do that day in and day out for years. And really what I learned after graduating the monastery is that you don't just have to become a monk to learn all these practices, but rather if you're a normal person like me, and see, I'm normal now, right? Laugh. Thank you. So even if you're a normal person, you can't live in a monastery. That's all right. There's still practical ways for you to bring into your daily practice, into your daily life, tools and knowledge that's actually going to allow you to hit your goals sustainably and practically. When I was a monk, I got terribly sick with a parasite once. I'm not going to share the details with you. Wouldn't do that to you. But long story short, it was a big problem. And I tried to do the Western medicine path, but it seemingly put me in a worse compromised situation. And it forced me to have to take a Eastern approach to medicine, which through a very slow journey, I was able to completely transition my health and go from practically bedridden, debilitated, to a place of strong health and strong immunity. And one of the main things I learned when I went from the Western to the Eastern approach was the idea of taking things that you could do, small things that you could do every little day. Because I was used to growing up, it's like, oh, you got a headache, you just take a little pill for that, and it's just gone. And it comes back again, of course, it doesn't actually fix it, but takes it away for a short amount of time. And the Eastern approach is more based on, okay, what are the small habits that you can do on a daily basis that are going to provide you sustainable results? And I remember as I started, take a little tea here, take a tiny little medicine with this, and you wouldn't really notice such a big change on the day that you would take it. But a week later, a month later, it would be a revolutionary change. I felt better after the medicine than I did before the sickness. And then from there, I started to learn Ayurveda, which one of the primary principles of Ayurveda, or the oldest ancient holistic science in the world, is what are the little things that you can do on a daily, regular basis consistently that are going to provide you optimal health, optimal, sustainable health. From there, once I graduated the monastery and I started studying business and teaching people, learning for myself how to sustain myself. And then since being able to teach other people to do that, turns out the principles are the same. And the same principle in being able to make the amount of money that you want to make when you want to make it comes down to, when you break it into most basic principles, most fundamental aspects, it's what are the small things that you're doing on a daily basis that are going to provide you the results that you want. And that's how we went from making ultimately about $18,000 a year running around like a headless chicken, just exhausting myself, to making a decision I want to do that every month and making 18 grand a month and then 20 grand a month and then doubling that and then growing from there. Every single thing gets broken down into what are the daily things that you're doing, and that way you're training your mind and the information that you're giving your mind that will provide you the most success sustainably. So we're not looking at any cheats here in life. Sorry. If you're wanting like, just give me the one pill. No. I'm going to teach each of you how to integrate small practical tips in your way so that it's just a matter of time for you to have the life that you want. It might happen today, might happen next week, might happen in a month or a couple months, might happen next year, or maybe in a couple of years. But one thing we can guarantee is that it will happen if you stick to basic practices consistently. And how do you do that? Let's jump into exploring some of these practices.